Hello and welcome to Immediate Immersion Live. Today we're talking about classroom layout. I'm so excited to see you all here. If you're watching on the replay, please type in hashtag replay and let me know that you're watching it on the replay. If you are here live, type in hashtag live and let me know that as well. And also, if you are watching on the replay and this time doesn't work well for you, please let me know in the comments what day and time does work well. I'm looking for trying to get most of you as possible online live if that's at all possible. So if you can send me that time and date, I'll try to see what we can do and accommodate all of that. But again, hashtag live if you're watching us live today and hashtag replay if you're watching on the replay. I'm so excited to talk about this topic. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about. So let's go ahead and get started. So you think your classroom layout doesn't impact your language learning? Think again. Today I'm unveiling 5 groundbreaking layouts that will completely transform your approach to language teaching. From simple tweak to a complete overhaul, these layouts are game changers. But there's one layout that might just surprise you the most, and stick around to find out which one that is. My name is Scott, and you're watching Immediate Immersion Live, where we're all about comprehension-based instruction in the modern language classroom. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Again, we're talking about classroom layouts today. It's something that we don't always think about, that it really makes a real big impact on how we teach and the engagement of our students, but it actually does. We'll talk about a couple of things and some examples as I get into this with my own classroom as well. So let's start with dynamic learning stations. The concept here is to create distinct stations for different language skills. So you can have different things. So if there are times like, when we're doing comprehensible input, we're on a lot of the time. But one of the things that you can do is if you need to take a little bit of a laid back approach for a day, you can set up these distinct stations for different language skills. For example, you can have a listening station where there's some activities that kids do that will enhance their listening skills. Perhaps they're watching a YouTube video, or they're listening to a podcast, or they're watching a pre-recorded cartoon. I like to sometimes make like a slide deck with some cartoons on it that I've used, like clip art. Couldn't think of the word for a minute. And then like maybe 4 or 5 frames, and then I'll tell the story while they watch it and record that through the slide deck, and that makes it into a video that they can watch. You can also pre-record a movie talk. That can also be done, but that would be for your listening station. Then you could have another station, which could be your writing station, and you could give 3 or 4 prompts, and then kids stay at the station for 10 or 15 minutes, and then they write on one of those prompts that they choose. You could have a speaking station where you can set up computers or recording devices. My preferred thing to use is flip.com, which is free, and kids can use that and do a lot of fun things with it. Or lots of times your learning management systems already have a pre-recording bit built in where they can record what they're saying in the target language. You can give them a couple of prompts or some pictures to talk about. Then they can record those. And then finally, you could have a reading area where you have a few selected readings for them to read and then answer comprehension questions or do some kind of activity with it. So that's one thing that you can do with these distinct stations. The other thing you could do is set up like real life scenarios area. So you can have a little Spanish market and you can set up a table. You can have a student be the vendor, and then you can cut out clip art for different items that they can buy. And then you can even make some copies of some currency and cut that out, and they can use that to buy. So they can interact with a market in the target language. Or perhaps they can you can make like a subway or a bus scene for some public transportation, and they can strike up a conversation. Or you can have another section where it could be like set up as a little cafe. There's some snacks, some drinks, and then they're sitting there, and then they have different things that they're supposed to talk about in the target language. So you can set these real life little scenarios to kind of immerse them in the language, and that really helps to make dynamic classroom that engages the students really in the language. And these stations will encourage movement and diverse skill practice, and it's all in this immersive setting of the language that you're teaching. It's a really great and fun thing, and you might set this up maybe, once or twice a month. It's not something I would do all the time. I might have one with the learning stations. That's a great one for subs, by the way, to have it done on the sub day. You can set up for the sub day, and all the sub has to do is monitor the work. Otherwise, once a month, do that one so you can have a day off a little bit, and then maybe another one where you do the role play type scenarios. So those are our dynamic learning stations, and let's go ahead and move on to flexible seating options. So what this is all about offering a variety of seating choices to cater to different learning preferences. So this is my favorite thing. I love to do this. I think it was 2016, 17, somewhere around there, that I finally got permission to go deskless. And that was one of the best things that I ever did. And what my kids said when I first did it, I teach 6th through 8th grade. My 8th graders complained, "I don't have a place to put my head." Good, I don't want you to put your head anywhere. But my 7th graders and my 6th graders, they were excited. They said it let them realize that they were in a different place. It was a different teaching atmosphere. And so it had a positive effect on that for them. So if you can, I highly recommend going deskless if you can do so. It helped me in so many ways. Number one, I was able to get 2 rows in a semicircle instead of 3 or 4, so I could get to students quicker if there was an issue that I needed to address. 2, when I'm having conversations, even my principal said something about this, that the desks were a barrier. A desk, I don't know how wide a desk is, maybe 2.5 feet, something like that. That's as close as I could get to a student. And if the student was in the second row, there was that first set of desks and then their desk, so it was even further. But by removing the desks, I could get closer and have more intimate conversations with them and make it more conversational and not more teacher versus student, because they're seated at a desk and then we're spaced out. So it made it into a more conversational approach. Also, the versatility. If I needed to reorganize the desks in any way, shape, or form, it was an easy way to do it, because we could I say, kids, let's move the desk. I need them in groups of 4, or let's move it into a circle, or let's make it into 2 lines. All of these things I could do relatively easy because they were just chairs and they could be moved around so very quickly with that. So that was another great idea. And then third, classroom management. Number 1, I could get to a problem area really quick. And I was close enough because I would only be maximum one row. If I was in this behind in the back of the classroom, then I was one row away from the front row. And if I was in the front of the classroom, I was only one row away from the back row. So I could get pretty close. Two, they didn't have a desk to hide behind. So if they were on their cell phone or doing something they shouldn't be doing, if they're eating when they're not supposed to be, I could see it. They had no way of hiding it. And the way that my kids came up with hiding it was to bring their backpack to their lap and then do it behind their backpack. Well, that was so obvious because who carries their backpack on their lap? Nobody does that. So as soon as the backpack went on the lap, I knew something was happening and I could stop it right away. So I love the deskless classroom. But that's not the only thing. I didn't have standing desks, but that's an option for some people. I have a back counter, and so some of my kids preferred to stand at the back counter and work that way. Perfectly fine. But I also incorporated two great things. I had bean bags and I had yoga balls. So with bean bags, they're harder to come by. I got the Big Joe, something like that. I can't remember the name. Big Joe, I think is what it's called, or something similar to that. They're giant bean bags and they're vinyl. You need to have vinyl. You don't want to have cloth because of the lice issue. So I got the vinyl ones. And they cost me, I think, $25 or $30 that I bought. And I bought like 4 of them. They don't last forever, especially if kids don't take care of them because they pop. If the kids plop on them too many times, they'll pop, and then all that little styrofoam balls start coming out, and that's horrible. I hated that. So you got to watch for that. But I only had 4 of those. But what I had a lot more of, I think I had 15 yoga balls. Now, the place I got my yoga balls are 5 and below. If you don't have a 5 and below near you, you can go online. Before they were online, they weren't in my neighborhood, in my area, in my city. So when I went home to Michigan, there was a 5 and below there, and I would buy 5 or 6 of the yoga balls. They're $5 each, and then I would bring them back in my luggage. But now there's a 5 and below in my neighborhood, so if I run out of a yoga ball, I can go and get another one for $5. They're not as big. They're pretty big, but they're not as big as the normal $25 or $30 ones. But they do last a long time unless a kid, decides to put a pencil through one. But they work well, and for $5, it was well worth it for me. So I would have bean bags and I would have yoga balls in my classroom and it would be on a first come, first serve basis. Or they could use their participation points to reserve a yoga ball or bean bag for themselves for the entire week of class. So that was something to do. And the third thing I used to do is get things called wiggle seats. Now, wiggle seats are these little cushions, and they have different textures on them, little knobs and such, and they're uneven. So it's impossible to sit still on one. And they're meant for autistic kids who need sensory, I don't know what the word, sensory awareness. They need sensory elements in their environment to be able to focus. And so they were already prioritized for any kid who had autism or ADHD were my second kids. And if none of those kids wanted them or needed them, then other kids could sit in them. I had 2 of them. I bought them on Amazon. I think they were about $20 or $30, but they were recommended by my special needs department. And so it was a really great thing for kids to do, especially if they have to fidget, because it's quiet and they can wiggle around on a seat, and it's a cushion. And then, as I said, it's got the texture on it to give them that sensory element in there. My overall rule for seating in my classroom, I have 2 basic ones. The first is there are no assigned seats until your class loses that because you guys are goofing around or talking too much. And then once there are assigned seats, you'll have assigned seats for the rest of the year, and I change my seats on a monthly basis. Now, I've had some classes go all year with no assigned seats because they didn't want to lose that privilege of having assigned seats. So they kept their mouths shut, paid attention, and did what they're supposed to do. Then I've had other classes who've lost that right away. So right from the very beginning, within a few days of the school starting, they have already lost that privilege. So both things can happen. But within your assigned seats, or if you have free seating, my rule is you can sit however you want, provided you're focused and paying attention. So I had one kid who used to, I don't know, I would get sick doing this, but he would lie on the floor on his back, and then he would put his knees up over the chair and he'd be looking up at the ceiling. Now, sitting upside down like that would kind of get me kind of motion sickness somehow. It's kind of like reading in the car for me. So I couldn't do that. But the kid was always there when I asked him questions. He was always focused and always paying attention. So I didn't have a problem with that. During free seating, when I didn't have assigned seats, I had some kids who liked to sit on the back counter. Again, didn't have an issue with that as long as they were focused and paying attention and doing what they're supposed to be doing. So those were my two over-encompassing rules. And the whole reason for this flexible seating is because it increases the comfort and engagement by catering to everybody's learning needs. Sitting in rows, looking all forward with desks around them, sometimes in alphabetical order, is awful. It's not the best way for, at least for language classes where we're more interactive than some other disciplines. So I wanted to lower that again, as we're always trying to do, lower that affective filter, which is stress. That's what I call it. Lower that, make the classroom more comfortable, more inviting, and more conducive to acquiring languages. So it's really, really important for that. So that is our flexible seating options, and I love these. So if you can have a way to implement them in your classroom, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you do that. Next, let's talk about interactive walls. We all know about decorating our walls. That's, something we give in. I remember when I first started teaching and I had nothing on my walls, and it was also my first day of school. I started a little bit late. They hired me after the first month of school. I had nothing on my walls, and it was parent-teacher night. I felt so, self-conscious. I made a whole bunch of decorations really quick, threw them up on the walls, but it still wasn't what I really wanted it to be. But these are interactive walls. We want to use wall space for collaborative learning tools. That's what we're talking about here. So it's changing just our mere decorations up a little bit. So there's lots of different things that you can do. The number one thing is create sections for student contributions. So students you can give like a section of the wall, and this is great for a class job where I rotate my class jobs on a monthly basis, but you could have, the wall decorators. And so you can create a section where they create their own bulletin board or decoration board that kids build. You can either give them a theme or they can come up with something completely on their own that's applicable to the language, and then they completely create it. You can also create like vocabulary sections where, again, you can have kids do this. They can make a vocabulary wall, and it can either be one of two ways. It could be just a creative way of displaying vocabulary with the translations, or even better, the kids could flip the words over. So take a piece of paper, fold it in half. They'll write the target language on the outside. They can write the translation on the inside and then put them up on the wall so that kids can come up and explore these, look at the word on the outside, and then test themselves and then flip it up. So it's kind of like a flashcards in there. So that makes the wall a little bit more interactive. Another thing you can do is have kids, post work that they've done. Artwork, designs. If you do characters in your classroom, that could be artwork of characters. You could have any kinds of things that kids wanted to create up there. It could be samples of their writing, anything that they want to put up on the wall that shows themselves. And again, you can rotate this out with different groups of kids. So this couple of weeks could be these kids put their stuff up there. These couple of kids put this stuff that they want to put up there. And each student in that group can choose what they want to exhibit of their work up on the wall. So it could be like a little picture of their face there, and then a sample of work that they wanted to show up on the wall. They can also create cultural walls, especially if they're like three-dimensional. Like, let's say if you're, let's say I want to do the Plaza Mayor from Madrid, Spain. So my students can make some backdrop pictures that show the Plaza Mayor, but then they could also put a little table with some chairs there, like one of the cafes at the Plaza del Mor. So it's a little bit Plaza. No, I can't speak. Plaza Mayor. So they can make like a little three-dimensional aspect of this little corner to make it a little bit more interactive. Another thing is you could have a random set of words, and they might be like on like sticky, not like sticky note kind of sticky. You can buy the larger ones at the store, and they can have individual words, and then kids could put these words and make different sentences with them. And you might color code them. You might put all nouns one color, all verbs a different color, all adjectives yet another color, and then they can go ahead and make, sentences so it becomes interactive. Or it could be idiomatic expressions up on the board, or famous quotes up on the board. Any of those kinds of things that could be on there to make it a little bit more interactive. And that makes the environment a little bit more participatory. And it fosters a community because we're working together to create these sections. And you can have multiple of these sections in your classroom. So you might have 2 or 3 that are dedicated to that, and then 2 or 3 dedicated to something that you put there that might be more static up there. So great way to do those things. Have them change out every couple of weeks or every month, and then have the kids participate in creating them. It makes for a much more interactive and much more engaging atmosphere. Next, let's go. Where are we? Here we are. Let's talk about cultural immersion corners. So here you want to develop areas in the classroom that are dedicated to cultural exploration. The one idea about the Plaza Mayor is a version of that. But it doesn't have to be just that. It could be all different kinds of things. You want to decorate with artifacts, posters, and traditional music from the target language culture. Get one of those cheap, inexpensive, same word, sorry about that, Bluetooth speakers that you can put over there, and you can play some traditional music. You can put up some pictures that you found on the internet and print it out and make it like a little museum corner so they can see the types of art that you might find in the Louvre, or I can't think of the other museum off the top of my head, the Guggenheim and other museums like that, El Prado. So they can experience that. You can put up pictures of marketplaces or famous tourist areas like the Eiffel Tower or the Brandenburg Gate, so they can experience these and feel them, play the music, play background sounds from there. You can make an area and decorate it like a subway, because when you're in Paris or you're in Spain or you're in Berlin, you can take the subway. It's an experience to get around that way. So different kinds of things like that. If it is like a particular holiday time, decorate a corner completely in that holiday, but don't just make it wall art. Find a way to make it three-dimensional. With Dia de los Muertos, you can make your ofrendas, you can put them out there. For Christmas, you can take the Christmas traditions of the culture that you teach and bring those into 3 dimensions. Like in Spain, where they use shoes instead of stockings for presents, you can do that. Germany, you can make some advent calendars and put them out there so kids can experience all of that stuff. It makes it more 3-dimensional, makes it more immersive, and it deepens that cultural understanding and connection to the language, which is so very important. And all of these ideas that we've been talking about so far are lowering that affective filter, lowering that stress, immersing kids not only in the language and the culture, but also in the comfortability of it all. That it's a much more welcoming area for kids to learn and acquire language. It's not like traditional school. And so that makes it really, really effective and nice. And it overall just deepens that cultural understanding and connection to the language, which is so very important. And lastly, let's talk about the Tranquility Nook. So, the concept here is a quiet area for students to relax and decompress. So, this is great for like silent reading time, but not just that. Let's say a kid is having a really stressful day or something's going on in their life, whether it be school related or friend related or family related, doesn't matter, and they just need a few minutes. You can establish this quiet area with a little bit of a timer, a really cozy place. Maybe put that beanbag over there, some softer lighting. Maybe give them some headphones, even if they don't listen to anything, that they can just block out the rest of the noise. Um, Give them maybe a couple fidget spinners or a stress ball, they can be there. And then the timer, the rule is like 3 to 5 minutes. You determine what it is. They can sit there for 3 to 5 minutes, quietly refocusing, relaxing for a few minutes. As I said, you could have the headphones, you could have a little player there that could play relaxing music, that they recenter themselves, and then they can return back to the classroom. It's also great for disciplinary. It's the intermediate step before having to send them to the principal's office or send them out of the classroom. They can go there and maybe reset themselves in a better way because they're not actually being excluded from the classroom. So that could be a really great way to encourage that, to help them refocus so they can get back and participate with the classroom. So it's a great activity, to a little area to create. And this is like a permanent area that I would have. Now, I wouldn't let my kids take advantage of it where they can sit there for 20 or 30 minutes. As I said, 3 to 5 minutes depending on your class time. My classes are about 43 minutes on average, so 3 minutes is what I give them. I don't give them 5 because that's a good portion of my class. So I'm not going to give them 5, I'm going to give them 3. Sometimes if I see that they're really, really heated, I might give them 2 3-minute right in a row. So I'll have 6, but that's the most I give them. I want them to come back to the classroom. And I won't let them take advantage. They can't, like, if I see this as becoming an issue where every single day they're taking 3 or 5 minutes, then I'm going to have a conversation with them and see what's going on. And maybe I need to get a counselor involved in that situation. But, once or twice a week is fine. And it allows those kids to get comfortable, relaxed, and be able to get refocused. Another rule of mine for this would be only one student at a time. We can't have more than one student at a time. So they'll have to wait their turn. But we're also not lining up. We're not making a whole line or a sign up. I'm next, I'm next, I'm next. That's not what it's meant for. It's not meant for an everyday, everybody gets a chance. It's for when they really, really need that time for that mental recharging or reducing anxiety or enhancing their overall well-being. Because especially after COVID, we all know that our students have had higher anxiety levels than pre-COVID times. So this is just another way that we can help students with those issues. So those are the things I wanted to talk about today. About making your classroom layout and your classroom environment more conducive to learning in a welcoming and less stressful way. If you have any questions or comments or even ideas of things that you do, feel free to put them in the comments. Again, if you're watching on the replay, please let me know by typing in #replay. And also, tell me what time and day works best for you so that if I can find another time that works better for more people, I will happily switch to that time. The earliest I can do because of school is 3 o'clock Pacific time, so that would be 6 o'clock Eastern time in the United States. But any day of the week works for me. I just need to know what works best for you. So let me know that in the comments. Also, we have our dynamic discipline course going on right now. Let me go ahead and put that in the chat here. US discipline. So we have this class every Sunday. We are on our 3rd or 4th class. I can't remember, but they are recorded. So you're welcome to come and still join us. and participate in the webinar with us, you can do so and register, learn more about it at that link I just posted. Let me put it up on the screen here. It's a 10-week course that talks about all the unexpected things that we can do to improve our class management and classroom engagement with students. So if that's something that interests you, please go to mm.us/discipline for that. And in just 2 weeks, I can't believe it, Comprehended 2024 is going to start. Let me put that in here as well. Here's the link for that. It's comprehended.co/register. You want to register before the 1st of February. So the 31st is the last day of regular registration. Pricing goes up on the 1st of February. So if you want to take advantage of that, you can purchase 3, 6, 9, or 12-month passes to access all of the videos. Most of them are all pre-recorded. We do have some live sessions on Saturdays. The conference starts on February 17th and goes through the end of May, unless you buy a longer pass. So if you buy a 6-month or 9-month or 12-month pass, it will go 6, 9, and 12 months after the February 17th before it expires. So if that's something you're interested in, you can do that. Both our Dynamic Discipline course and our Comprehended offer graduate level credits through the University of the Pacific. So you can go to those websites and learn more about the credits there. It is an additional fee paid to the university, but you can get credits to help you recertify or even increase your pay scale depending on your district's rules and regulations. So if either of those things interest you, those are the links for that. Again, if you have any questions, comments, or you want to add anything to my ideas for dynamic classroom layouts, please do so in the chat or the comments. And with that, I'll see you guys next week. And next week, we're going to be talking about how to handle disruptive behavior. So that's our next week topic. Until then, I will see you later. Have a great week.